Alright. I've Some of you viewers wanted me to share about my childhood this week this weekend, so here I go. So yeah. Basically, I'm going to talk about these things, the good and the bad, about my childhood. Let's get into it. And also my favorite TV shows as a child, but some of them also freaked me out though. I think I might have been like around 7 or 8. I don't remember. But I was watching Dora the Explorer. I'll be totally honest with you. I never watched that show. Like, never. I haven't seen it in years, but it just popped out of my memory. So it's about this girl named Dora, who is little, and even though I never watch it anymore, I do still remember it. And Boots also. And apparently, I probably watched Dora the Explorer like a couple times, like lots of. Sorry, I'm bad at speech. I probably watched Dora the Explorer like lots of times, and yeah. Basically, that was this was kind of absurd, and I wasn't expecting it. So, yeah. And yeah, I got to, in my dream, I dreamed about this. I met Dora the Explorer and Boots. I actually met them in my dream. Don't remember ever talking to them whatsoever. But yeah. Imagine if Swiper was there, that would have been a lot worse. So, yeah. I had lots of fun with Dora the Explorer in my dreams. It was just, what could possibly go wrong? And yeah. This is also a TV show that I noticed that also kinda that I really don't know any. I don't really see any kids TV shows that much anymore. I'm not on TV that often anymore. But however, I do have this one time where I do remember Sesame Street. This is probably one of my first memories. I was watching Sesame Street. And yes, no, not the... I saw Elmo, and... yeah, Cookie Monster was the one being very funny. Grover is the one who, falls all the time. Like that clip in Mother's Day where his mom's necklace was very heavy and he was like, wow! I found that very funny. Even though he's not smart, he is pretty hilarious. And yes, I also have seen another TV show that I have done, that I've seen, and it's called Alvin and the Chipmunks. Now, I haven't actually seen the movie in years, but I've watched the cartoon sometimes. I really don't know. Like the animated version. I really don't remember the Alvin and the Chipmunks that much. I just remember that Dave, that guy, there was this cat that he tried to call, and the cat was like, "Meow," trying to scratch it, trying to chase him, catch him. So yeah. Well, that didn't really freak me out as a child, and yeah. And also, Alvin and the Chipmunks wasn't that bad. But this... Never mind. I'm bad at speech, though. And also, I do remember this show that I really liked as a child. Like, I loved as a child. Blue's Clues. Blue's Clues was this show where Blue has to find clues. I haven't seen that in years. I never watch that anymore. Like, I never watch Blue's Clues. I'm not on TV that often. And why the hell do I still have the DVDs, though? Like, yeah. I don't know. I love this show. I remember seeing it when I was 2, and I think I remember dressing up as Joe from Blue's Clues. I did dress up as him. I think I was only 2 at the time. So, yeah. And also, Mickey Mouse. I haven't seen like the cartoons in like a year or so, but the actual episodes I haven't seen in like since I was a child. That didn't really freak me out, but I'm not really sure. So yeah. But this is where the bad things start to begin. Think back, way back, when you were a tiny baby, or when you were a baby. What happened? What is your first TV show that you watched? I would recommend you pause the video, like right now, and take a guess in the comments. Alright, those of you guys that have known, if you guys guessed it correctly, then congrats. And also, this, like you may want to try and guess it, this is where the moment creeps. Like, how am I still doing? Like, how do I still have those shows? Why do I still have them? But if you don't want to see this clip because it would cause nightmares and be a jump scare, just skip over to wherever I do that. Because get ready, because I'm going to start the clip in 3, 2, 1. See what I mean? That, right there, if you know what it is, that is Baby Einstein. This kind of freaked me out as a kid. Yeah. Just like the YouTuber Mia Claire, who said that this dog, she had a nightmare about this dog that chased her around with a knife, and like, what the hell? How is that even possible if she had no experience with knives? And she said that dog was trying to freaking kill her. Like, holy crap, what was that? Basically, what I'm really saying is that I had nightmares about Baby Einstein for years. Alright. So, yes. I've basically Hold on. I'm bad at speech. So, yeah. And also to the YouTuber Spartan Dash, he said he got random, like, he said that was he got random cow puppets. Like, no, not that. Like, there was like, he said that he had nightmares about about the cow puppet popping up in random corners, which, that didn't even scare me. That could be a jump scare for some people. And also, that moose from Baby Einstein could actually be a jump scare to some people. Like, Baby Einstein is a show for babies that literally teaches them how to do stuff. I don't know. Like, what is gonna happen? I had nightmares about that moose that I played on that clip for, like, years. Like, many years. Also, to the YouTuber Mia Claire, if you're watching this video, like, I had nightmares about that moose puppet I played for literally, like, I started having nightmares about that moose puppet since I was 4. And yeah, I was scared, but me as a 4-year-old, I didn't even scream or cry. Like, that, I didn't even scream or cry. But as a child, when you have a nightmare, it's just, like, so terrifying. And my mom knew about this too, and she was like, yo, I don't want you watching that anymore. But me being absolutely crazy, and I'm not saying this is a good thing to disrespect your parents. Listen to your parents. I continued to watch Baby Einstein. I actually did. So, yeah. I did continue to watch Baby Einstein. I don't know what my mom thought about this, but the YouTuber Mia Clarentine said that she was afraid of this. She was like 5 or 6 when she had those nightmares. I started having those nightmares when I was like 4, and I literally, let me explain to you in some more details. My first nightmare that I had was I was going out of preschool and to the bus, and the moose was on the bus, and he just made that noise, and then literally after he made the noise, I got close to his face, and he made a noise, and I saw colors, like this circle that's around me. I don't know what would happen. For a second, I thought he was doing something inappropriate, but apparently he was just making people hallucinate. And clearly, what I am saying is that when I started having those nightmares, I would call that moose Evil Moose. Like, for reals. He's not actually called that. I just call him that because of the nightmares I've had about him. And even though I actually didn't even know this, and the moose is like the most common nightmares that I had as a child. And I clearly was not having it. And to be reasonable, I didn't stop having those nightmares until like 12, until I was like 13 or 14. If I were to have those nightmares now, it's probably going to be extremely rare. Like, it didn't stop completely, but the nightmares just kept on getting, like, the nightmares, they just kept on getting, I just kept on having them less and less often as I got from age 4 to 14. Think about that. I was 13 or 14 when I completely stopped. But in between like the age of like 12 to 14, they only appeared like a couple times a year, maybe even once at the minimum. So yeah, I used to be afraid of Baby Einstein. I'm not anymore, but yeah. And also, I actually have some of the puppets though, and why the crap do I still have those DVDs? I'm never gonna get rid of them. Lots of memories. And clearly, what happened? One night, when I had a nightmare about that moose, I was in daycare, and yes, I was around 6 or 7 at the time, but I started having nightmares about the bee puppet with those blue wings. And yeah. Basically, he's like the most... I didn't have the nightmares as much as the evil moose, but whatsoever, that was pretty scary. Like, as of right now, for me, if I were to call... So, what I said about this bee, I would hear him... Like, I would hear him, like, making a pszzz. He would do that. And basically, what happened is, like, I would just start running. Like, I would start running, or either I would just stay. And I remember that my mom was in the dream one time, and she said, "Oh, is a bee? Oh, he, whatever." Like, she said one reason, and then she said, or maybe he turns off. Like, how do you even turn off a bee? What the heck? Yeah. Absolutely terrifying. Not as terrifying as the evil moose, though. Apparently. I've had more nightmares about the moose than the bee, but I'm just going to talk about the bee really quick. The bee, however, he was the most... One time, I heard that noise that he made, and clearly, I somehow managed to get away. I was at the top of the stairs. I would dream myself sliding down the stairs, and I would still keep sliding. I would talk about sliding down the stairs on my ass at, I would say, hitting minimum probably maybe 20 miles an hour. That's crazy. Basically, that is literally just insane. Also, I had another nightmare about this bee, it was during the daytime, which seemed a little strange. Either he gets me, or he doesn't get me. Like, what the heck? It's just random. Like, just completely random. So, yeah. I don't know, like, what else to say about this bee. I would just say he was very annoying. Like, I showed this to my cousins, and they just both freaked out. I mean, they probably won't anymore because they're now adults, but yeah. So, yeah. But what I always think about is I thought the dreams were real. And clearly, what I am doing right now is I'll be totally honest with you. I still watch Baby Einstein, but only like a couple times a year. Either way, rhythm games has gotten into the way of that. So, yeah, I probably just forgot about it for like a couple years. Man, I'm tired. Also, what happened next is that and this seemed very strange about the bee puppet. I was like, this bee, this bee was in the dream, and somehow Elmo was involved with it. Like, I don't know what he said, but he said, "Is that a pom-pom?" And then there was like a bzzz, and he said, "No, that's a bee." Like, what? What the heck? What the heck? I have very strange nightmares or dreams in my life. I still do sometimes. And I clearly, like, what I want to do, I don't know what else to do. So what happened during that? Elmo let the bee in. I don't know what happened. There was one time where I was outside, like in the clouds, and it was daytime, and the bee probably was like a frame from catching me before the dream ended. Now this is where the story starts to get scary. I've had nightmares about this moose for a very long time. In fact, what happened one time, he was being nice. He was like, "Can you sniff? Can you sniff? What the heck?" And then he just made that noise. And by the way, that's when he appears out of the stocking, like when the moose, like you see this stocking right here, and this is the top, and you see the top like go down to the bottom of the screen, like the moose just pops out of there. That could be a jump scare. Luckily it doesn't scare me. Now I'm just going to get into another puppet that I've technically wasn't nightmares. I was just playing around with that puppet. Believe it or not, there are actually some good dreams I've had about Baby Einstein. There was once this part where I saw Bard the Dragon. And I saw him in the and I saw him like going from my mom's bedroom to the bathroom, and then it just flinged me. And yeah. So what happens? Like, there was this one time where I had some strange dream that I actually... It was pretty much bonkers. So what happened is I saw this guy who looked like President Donald Trump. Probably wasn't him, though. And he was on TV. I was in the guest bedroom. I don't remember how old I was that time. But this is where the story starts to get. This is where it starts to get. The story starts to get bizarre. And clearly, this guy was like, I see you there. And I saw Brother Jacking going, walking sideways from the right side of the screen to the middle. And as soon as he is in the middle, I somehow am sitting on the bed, somehow get launched through the ceiling, and basically it was over. And what I found strange is he was walking from like the right side instead of the left side like the original. He was also walking sideways instead of forward. Very strange whatsoever, but yeah. One night in Bard the Dragon, what scared me the most is like Bard the Dragon's bleh. In Baby Mozart, it doesn't really scare me that much, but in World of Rhythm, it used to scare me that much. That haunted me for much longer than I thought, and now it doesn't. I don't know why the World of Rhythm Bard the Dragon Blast scared the crap out of me. Like, bruh. Why? And yeah, I was afraid of the evil moose for a while. Like, I would remember, I was at my grandma's house, and me and my family would watch Baby Einstein. I was really little at this time, and I would hide in, like, the kitchen just to avoid that moose part, and wait till he was gone, and my grandma would say, "Ian, come watch with us," and I didn't want, I don't know how she reacted, but I didn't know. But she didn't know at the time that I'd been having nightmares about that moose. I really should have thought of telling her. But I was really little at the time. Sometimes what I would do is at my grandma's old house, I would fly up. No, not that. I would just go to the front of the door to see the last part of the evil moose, or sometimes his sound, or sometimes maybe the entire thing before he disappears. I don't know, I did that a couple times. And then eventually, I would go and watch. Sometimes I would just be too lazy to watch the entire show and just do the puppet shows, and my grandma said my cousins wanted to do it, so I just decided to do it anyway, and I was kind of unhappy though, but whatever. But this one night, this is when the story starts to get more insane. This mouse puppet from Baby Santa's Music Box, or other shows, he is just plain... He is just evil. Like, yeah. He's just very evil. Well, I think he's evil. I don't know if he's actually evil. Basically, what he is doing is that... Basically, I do remember having nightmares about that mouse, but I don't remember exactly what happened in those dreams. Unfortunately. But, however, I do remember having nightmares about the hippo. And I thought that this was... And I've only had nightmares about the hippo once. And I was at a park with my grandpa and my cousin in a dream. And this and there was a hippo, and he was one of the bad hippos, and there was a gate behind him, and the hippo was trying to open the gate. And yeah, I was gonna go look inside the gate, and my grandpa said, "Ian, don't open the door." And then he said, "Hippo, don't open the door." Because he probably knew that hippo was bad. I didn't know it at the time and just wanted to go see. And then maybe a couple, well, maybe like a couple seconds after my grandpa said, "Hippo, don't open the door," he got out and he said, "There you go." My cousin was there, and then seconds after the hippo got out, maybe like two or 3 seconds, he just stared right at me. And then he just stares right at me for like 2 seconds, and then he just immediately starts attacking me. And then as soon as he touches me, it was over. Also, I do remember Bard the Dragon coming down from, and also I remember I used to have the train tracks and the in like the playroom, like the front room office / whatever it's called. And basically what happened is that there was like stairs, and there was a basement. There was a freaking basement. I didn't know that. My house doesn't have a basement at all, but in my dream there was a basement. And Bard the Dragon came up. I said, "Blah" to him, and then he said "blah" back. And I thought that was pretty cool. It wasn't necessarily a nightmare. Well, I thought I had nightmares about him, but he was just playing jokes. I remember how I even saw this illusion of the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star just playing food for baby Mozart in the dream, and then I just see these eyes, like like a furry monster, the shape of Cookie Monster, and then he just disappeared. And I was like, "What the heck?" I was kind of terrified. Basically, what is going on with me is that this moose, I had nightmares for a long time. I also had nightmares about the polar bears. I thought they were evil. Turns out they weren't. They were just playing funny. Like, I remember how one of the polar bears nibbled on my hair, and then as soon as I backed away, the polar bear just stood frozen. And I went up to him again, and he nibbled on my hair, and then I went back, and he just stood frozen. And this is on repeat. Like, I had crazy dreams. But yet again, about that evil moose. By the time I was around like 8, I don't remember how old I was at that time, but I do remember having nightmares about the evil moose and then the day after that night, I went to my grandparents' house and decided to watch Baby Santa's Music Box, and I don't know why the heck I decided to watch that after I had a nightmare about it. Just the evil moose, though. And yeah, that evil moose could be a jump scare, though, and yes. This, like Spartan Dash, he still watches it Baby Einstein sometimes. I only do it like a couple times a year at the most. And basically, what I do is like this moose would be so hard to deal with, because by the time I was like around 11, this moose had invented a laser gun that would turn our pets into grizzly bears that are of the size of a full-grown golden retriever. And I felt like, bro. Like, I remember that bear tried to attack me, but I don't remember seeing the evil moose in that dream. And apparently, there's a nice reindeer that likes to. There's a nice reindeer that's like the evil moose's brother. I'm just making this crap up, by the way, which I did when I was like a little kid. Like, my guess was that the evil moose put on the Santa hat for for the reindeer, just to be mean, but I have no idea. One night, when I was like maybe 11 or 12, I had this nightmare that I had a power outage in the house, and the evil moose would come, and like he would be standing right at my front door. And yeah, like I tried to I literally tried to turn on the light. It was only on for like half a second. It was only on for half a second, and then it turned off on its own. So and then seconds after that, after my mom was in this, and seconds after my mom was in this, the evil moose came, and I don't know why I don't even know why I went down, and why I went down to his face once again. That was not smart. I remember what my dad saying, if the moose comes, call for my dog. But I always kept forgetting to do that. So yeah. Why would I have a nightmare about these Baby Einstein puppets? Clearly, what I like is that the polar bears are gonna probably like I made a video on this, like where the polar bears are probably gonna attack the evil moose. And that would just be really funny, because they basically just turned on him years ago. And yes, that was pretty intense. So yeah. And I even saw him make the sound like multiple times in a row. There were like 3 or 4. And I was like, yo. And do you know what that also reminds me of? Like, some people think Baby Einstein is actually a horror show. Like, since they got scared of it when they were a child. I'm not the first one to have nightmares about it. But however, I had pretty bad nightmares. I remember this, there were 2 stockings. There was one with something empty that just came to the top, and then the second one, the top just went up, and the top wasn't like this, it was somehow like this, and then a tiny evil moose popped out of there and just made his noise 3 times in a row. Like, I don't know what that noise was, but it's really creepy. Yeah, but what I also found really funny, this was a while ago. The evil moose was in some random person's garage. It was the same 2 stockings, and yes, same 2 stockings, and you know what my brother said? He said the brown moose did not want to come out. He just wiggled around in his home. There wasn't even a brown moose in there. So what happened is that the evil moose came out after the second stocking, and then when the moose came out of that stocking, he made his noise again. And I saw a flash. That means he took his picture. Luckily, that wasn't really a nightmare. It was just something really funny I encountered with the evil moose. And I saw some random person appear out of the stocking, and the evil moose was just going like this. Like, that was funny. And that person just started dancing, and the evil moose just bit that person. Like, the evil moose bit that person while that person was dancing. Wasn't affected. Didn't even care. And I was like, how in the world can someone, how can an adult fit in the evil moose's stocking? How is that even possible with him in it? And how did she even get out of there with the evil moose blocking her way? Good question. I don't really know. This is when the nightmares start to slow down. And yes, there was one time where I had not nightmares, but dreams about this giraffe puppet holding a guitar, not a guitar, like a violin in a string, like this. And then I would see him with this tree thing with all the spinners on it. The giraffe would go up to it and spin all of the spinners. Like really, how could he do it with no hands? He didn't use his mouth. Magic. There's lots of magic in my dreams. And clearly, when I was almost 16 in December of 2022, in January of 2023, I heard the stocking noise, but I didn't hear the evil moose make his noise. Clearly it wasn't a nightmare, but I thought it was. And I remember I once had 2 nightmares in one night, both of them about the evil moose. I don't remember the first one, but I remember the second one, and my dad was going like, Ian, look, this. And then I saw the moose playing dead. I went to go up to him, and he just did this. It made his noise and did the thing again. Like maybe see these circles. And then it was over. I remember once how the evil moose puppet actually got stuck on my dog's head one time in a dream. And I absolutely thought that was pretty funny. But yeah. But what's the real reason I stopped watching Baby Einstein before? Well, Tough question. I was still alive when I started playing rhythm games, and unfortunately, I didn't watch Baby Einstein for like pretty much a couple years. And in between that couple years, if I were to watch Baby Einstein again, and even though this happened, like I didn't have a nightmare on that date, but in January of 2022, my dog that my dad said to call for him to call for the evil moose passed away. But I do have a new dog that I got in November 2023. And yeah. I stopped having nightmares about this evil moose. But one night, there was the draft that made the evil moose sound. Like, how the heck does he even do that? Like, bruh, that's just like really stupid that the draft did. That was like, not so much, really. And then I saw the evil moose walking towards the left with his stocking, and he tripped over something. I thought that was funny, though. Maybe the draft was here to help. I don't know. But yeah. I also had nightmares about that evil moose when I got close to the... Like, he was in the TV, just exactly as I thought. He made those sounds multiple times. I was at my old grandparents' house, and he actually was he was actually on the TV, and guess what? He was on the TV, and then I put my face close to the screen like this. Like, this is how close my face was to him whenever he would hallucinate me. And he would make his noise, and I would see those circles. But I didn't see those circles that time, which was strange. So, yeah. That's basically what my nightmares were. But I've stopped having these nightmares about that evil moose. Last time I saw the evil moose, I was in the bathroom. I somehow got teleported to the bathroom, and then he, and then he just made his noise. Like, there was one time where I was in the bathtub, and the evil moose made his noise, like, multiple times. He bit my hand. I didn't even care. It didn't hurt in the dream, but whatsoever. Overall, he's just a puppet, whatsoever. And yes, absolutely insane nightmares about Baby Einstein. Like, why? Anyways, I stopped having nightmares about that moose completely. Or did I?